Welcome to tonight's Saturday Night Special, episode 45, here on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Wayne Titus, author of The Entrepreneur's Guide to Financial Well-Being. I encourage you to be inspired to become a better steward through financial wisdom by listening to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, with my friend Scott Mader.
I looked up every morning and it was the thing that excited me. And then begin to build in a little bit of time for that. There's all sorts of activities that you can do. You can Google Passion Project and find lists of things that, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, here's some examples. If you're someone who likes to write, here are some examples. If you're someone who likes to teach, here are some examples.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
In tonight's Saturday Night Special, I talk with you about what a passion project really is. I share why it's important to find your own passion project, and I give you some tips on what you can ask so that you can find your own passion project. One area that a lot of folks need some help with is around the area of productivity. Getting not just more things done, but actually getting the right things done can be really, really tough. I've got a course called Productivity for Your Passion that's designed to help you do this and then to hold you accountable and walk with you so that you can tailor productivity not just to be getting more done, but actually getting the right things done. What's more, we take the approach of looking at your personality and how you actually look at things in the world and tailor the productivity system to your personality. Because the truth is, a lot of the systems that are out there are written really well for somebody with a particular personality type. But if you have a different approach to things, they just don't work. But there's tools and techniques and approaches that you can take that will work for anyone. And we help you do that in Productivity for Your Passion. Check it out over at inspiredstewardship.com/launch. Finding your passion and what's your passion project? These are questions that, quite frankly, if you Google that, if you put it in to a search engine, you'll find millions and millions of results in mere seconds because it's talked about a lot. But I wanted to talk a little bit about why it's important to actually find a passion project and what a passion project is. I mean, even if you're doing something that you love, even if you've got a career that you love, a family that you love, even if you feel like you've got all of your time filled with activities that are positive and allow you to serve others well, I still think that sometimes it's important to spend some time and energy finding a passion project. So what is a passion project? It's anything that you work on, oftentimes outside of your regular career path or your regular job, that gives you satisfaction, happiness, and that can help get you into some sort of state of flow. That moment when you're working on things and time seems to disappear. In some ways, it's kind of like a hobby, right? I mean, that's a similar definition to a hobby. So what's the difference? Well, to me, the key difference is that a passion project can often kind of pay for itself. Not necessarily that you make huge amounts of money with it, but it can kind of generate enough time and income benefits that in the long run, it takes care of itself. Where hobbies to me are often the things that you kind of spend money on just because you get joy out of it. Collecting a collectible or spending time and money fishing or barbecuing, which is one of my hobbies. These sorts of things they take time, they take money. And yes, you enjoy them and you get enjoyment from them. But my passion projects often are the things that I focus on, not just spending money on, but I actually try to turn them into something that at least makes enough money back that they pay for themselves. They become self-generating, not right away, but over time. So for instance, one of my clients, his passion project is actually wood turning, and he's now making these wooden pins that are really awesome. In fact, I'll put a link to his Etsy store in the show notes from this, and you can go check him out. But he doesn't do this just, it's not going to make him rich. It's not replacing his income from his day job. But he makes enough money with it that it kind of pays for the hobby itself. It pays for it as it goes. So this is to me, that's more of a passion project. So why should you have passion projects? It actually turns out that when you have a passion project, it shows all sorts of benefits in your life. It lowers your stress level. And at first that sounds funny because you're like, wait, I'm going to be spending time doing this other activity when I'm already stressed out about not having time. How does that lower my stress level? And the truth is, it does, because these are the things that you can get into as a flow state where energy comes back to you. You can actually learn and begin to develop the habit of getting into that flow state. You can recognize what it is, and then that gets you into that state easier in other places. Because it lowers stress, it can lower other negative activities like binging Netflix or overeating and stress eating. It helps break your mood up and get you into a better mood. And it helps you build talents that ultimately may turn into an alternative career path or a second source of income. So it also helps you diversify your skills and your abilities and your income. And diversification, spreading it around, is always a good thing because you never know what's going to happen. I've seen several people, friends of mine, who had a career and had a passion project on the side, and then something happens to their career. Maybe the company closes down, maybe the business is bought out by somebody else and their job and their position is no longer available. Maybe they just retire, but then they take their passion project, and because it was already up and running and they already had that skill and they already had that talent, they could grow it into a business relatively quickly. They could begin to open up and say, hey, there's new things that I want to do here, and I want to take this skill that I have and grow it into something that at least supplements my retirement income or supplements my side income or even turns into a career. That's the interesting thing about having a project that actually kind of pays for itself beyond a hobby. To me, again, the big difference is hobbies cost money, while passion projects generate some level of money. And that doesn't have to be a lot of money to still be a passion project, but enough to kind of pay for itself. So how can you find your own passion project? Because see, that's one of the biggest problems. People oftentimes say, I don't know what it is that I should be doing on the side. So one thing you can do is spend some time in silence. Spend some time where you meditate and think and you're introspective. Ask yourself, what is it that people constantly come to you for? What skills and knowledge are you constantly sharing with people where you're kind of the go-to person for that? Reconnect with your inner child while you sit in silence. Think about, what did you want to be when you grew up? What were the things that fascinated you? You can also look to your pain, look to things in your journey that you struggled with, because odds are really good if you struggled with it, other people did as well. And you might be able to turn that into a passion project. Think about expanding your perspective, looking outside of the normal. Begin to ask the question, what problem can this solve? What pain can this relieve? What pleasure can this give to someone? Those things are often a source of a passion project. Try to find something that allows you to contribute to something bigger than you, too. It's often serving the larger good that we find our own passion. So ask the question, what else do I want to do? What do I love as a child? What was my purpose as a child, where I looked up every morning and it was the thing that excited me? And then begin to build in a little bit of time for that. There's all sorts of activities that you can do. You can Google passion project and find list of things that, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, here's some examples. If you're someone who likes to write, here are some examples. If you're someone who likes to teach, here are some examples. The truth is, my coaching business grew out of a passion project. It started as a side passion project, and now it's my full-time job, and I love it. So spend some time in silence. Ask yourself these questions. Find your passion project, and then go and begin to do it. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you enjoyed this episode, please do us a favor. Go over to inspiredstewardship.com/iTunes rate, all one word, iTunes rate. It'll take you through how to leave a rating and review and how to make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so that you can get every episode as it comes out in your feed. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.